I'm Jerry the Snake Man, and today we're making a snake clip video, which I would rather not do, but I thought it would be the best thing to solve a problem that I have run into. On one of the forums that I'm on, and I'm not going to mention the forum's name, nor am I going to mention any of the members of the forum. One of the forums that I'm on, my reputation was brought into question. I was literally attacked on the forum by at least 3 of the members, and what I want to do today is I want to make a video. It's called Judge for Yourself, because what I've done, I've been doing for 33 years, and this is the first time I've ever had this type of issue. The forum topic was keeping wild-caught snakes. Now, to start off with, I'm not opposed to keeping wild-caught snakes. I'm an old-timer, been around for a long time, and for a lot of people, catching snakes in the wild is how they started off as a child, and they got their interest into snakes, and they got them to like snakes and want to keep them. But what happened was, while this keeping wild-caught snakes thread was going on, in my state, which is New York, it's actually illegal to keep wild-caught snakes unless you have a license. So I'm going to read you, I know it's going to be a little boring to start with, but I'm going to read you how this all started and how I was attacked on this forum, and I'm going to let you decide for yourself. When we're done with this, I'm going to show you the snakes that were called into question. I was accused of torturing snakes. I was accused of not feeding my snakes. And we just want to let you know and let you judge for yourself if you think this is true. Honestly, people who know me personally, who have seen my shows, I don't think they would actually even need to watch this video because they know what I'm all about. So here's what we're going to do. The gentleman I had started with, I told, I noticed that you were from New York. Do you realize that in New York State it is illegal to keep or to collect and possess any wild-caught snakes that are from New York? I was responded back, and I didn't even make this comment to this gentleman. I made it to another person who was very acceptive of what I had told them. And they had asked me, well, how do I get a license? But this gentleman, he writes to me and says, it's illegal in New York to keep anything other than a ball python or a gecko. So who cares? When the laws are outrageous, they must not be obeyed. Well, my response to this was, actually in New York City, it is illegal to keep a ball python. But who cares? And when the laws are outrageous, they must not be obeyed. This gentleman is talking about anarchy, talking about not obeying the laws that you disagree with. You see, I'm legal, and this is what I said to him. I said, I care. I said, because I'm legal, I like the fact that when people don't obey the laws, they get their collections confiscated. And when they get their collections confiscated, the law enforcement officers look for people who are legal to give these collections to. And I am one of them. So if you want to continue to be illegal, I'm the one that profits from it. I'm the one that will end up with collections. Okay? I'm not being arrogant or anything else. It's just the facts of life. If you don't want to follow the laws, this is what's going to happen. His response was back at you. Your position is that you should be able to keep snakes and make money exhibiting them while everyone else is screwed. In fact, I think more than fair to say that you are a cop based on what you have written in this thread. No, I take that back. You're a rat, and you should be fed off to a 20-foot python in the backyard of a New York legislator. Have a nice day. Well, let me respond to this, as the fact is that he makes mention of making money, exhibiting them while everyone else is screwed. Everyone else has the same right to go get a license from the DEC. If you don't want to do that, that's up to you. You see, the thing with the licenses, though, is that in order to have one, you have to have a purpose. These snakes cannot be kept as pets. These snakes must have a purpose, which is exhibitional, educational, or scientific. Okay? The fact that I do make money or I don't make money is really not any of this issue here. Okay? If you want to see a garter snake, I don't think anybody's going to come to a show to pay me to see a garter snake when they can see one out in the wild for free. To say in the fact that I'm a cop, that's ridiculous. So what are you, bad-mouthing cops now? Because you're a violator of the law and you dislike people who enforce it. And to then threaten me to say I should be fed off to a 20-foot python in the backyard state of a New York legislator? Again, obviously this gentleman has some issues. And he's promoting anarchy, and this is totally ridiculous. And if he thinks that promoting anarchy is going to cause a change for the positive, he's very wrong. Alright, then it says, no, that's not what Jerry the Snake Man was saying. I've watched his videos on YouTube. Have you? Not exactly a grand somatic experience that you will share with your friends, but watching them tells you everything you need to know about Jerry. Be observant while viewing. First of all, if you've watched any of my videos, I have a clip on my website, and the first thing you'll see is called Introducing Snake Clips. And in this short video, the introduction to the snake clips is the fact that they're not a grand somatic thing. I have a cheap camera. I don't have a script. This is the first time that I'm actually have something to read off of because I have to. I can't remember it. And, you know, taking a cheap shot like that to me just tells, you know, the mentality of the person I'm dealing with. It says, Jerry owns an African rock python. He apparently torments since the day he took possession of it, though he'll try to convince you that it's just the opposite. Simply watch the videos and decide for yourself. Well, I do agree. Watch the video and decide for yourself. This African rock python, though, and anybody, again, who knows me, can testify this snake was super aggressive from the day I got it and has not settled down. The poor African rock python appears to be the most vicious snake ever to slither across this planet, and Jerry not only makes videos showing himself in need of Hexarmor gloves to deal with it, but he takes this tormented animal on the road throughout New York State to exhibit to the public and make them understand that pythons, which get large, are extremely dangerous and should not be available as pets. You know what? The last part of that statement is very correct. I do not think that very large pythons that can be very aggressive in the hands of a lot of people who don't keep them secure, who don't have the ability to feed them properly, should be kept as pets. You should need a license for them. You need some kind of regulation. Many people have died from Burmese pythons, okay? And it's usually the family members that suffer. It's usually a child that ends up getting killed. Do we not remember just a year or two ago, I believe, when a rock python in Canada killed 2 children in a sleepover party? So yes, these snakes are dangerous. And yes, the one I have is extremely vicious and was always vicious and always will be vicious. He's not one that wants to tame down. Have I misunderstood you, he says. Is this the message you want to spread? Watch Jerry's videos and see for yourself. He also has interesting decor in the room of his house. Be observant. Well, I don't know what decor I have in my house that is interesting to him, but obviously he's impressed by the way I decorate my house. He lists some of the, and gives some links to some of my videos, which I'm thankful for. People can go check them out. He says, notice that Jerry emphasizes the vicious behavior is normal for an African rock python. Now, I don't know how many snakes and how many, large snakes that this gentleman has dealt with, but yes, there are some African rock pythons that may be docile, but in general, African rock pythons are noted for having an aggressive behavior, okay? Now, I am totally opposite on that when we talk about the issues in Florida, and these TV shows show these Burmese pythons with this vicious behavior and attacking, when I promote that most Burmese pythons are very docile and gentle. It's funny that Jerry's videos on this African rock python are the only ones on YouTube I've found where African rock pythons exhibit this kind of behavior. Well, you know what? Most people who post on YouTube are amateurs. Most people who are hobbyists. They promote and they show videos of the snakes that are docile, that are their pets. Says Jerry the Snake Man promotes himself as an ambassador for the reptile community. Well, I'm not really sure I do that. I promote myself as conservation through education. Or education that'll promote conservation. And the reason I do that is because, honestly, I guess I'm not a hobbyist. I'm more of a professional. I'm an educator. I try to get people to overcome their fear of snakes. And one of the ways I do this is by not fairy tale the snake community by showing only snakes that are nice and not aggressive. Snakes are both. They're like people. There's some people that are very nasty and there's some people that are very nice. Okay, snakes are the same way. I'm not saying all snakes are aggressive, but I'm not going to show a room full of kids snakes and have them in their head that these snakes are all nice and you can pick them up and you're not going to get bit and they're very friendly. I'm going to show you the real side of snakes, okay? And if that hurts the reptile community, well, then so be it. I'm not an ambassador for the reptile community or the hobbyist, okay? I'm trying to get people to learn to like snakes so they want to conserve them, so they don't kill them on sight. He says, I just can't figure out where all the fear and hate for snakes is coming from. Can you? What fear and hate for snakes? I love snakes. I got into snakes when I was 18 years old because I was afraid of snakes and I thought it was a stupid fear that I needed to overcome. And I've spent over the last 33 years educating people on the importance of snakes in our environment and the fact that they're not out to get you. Here's what I think is a good video on African rock pythons, and he shows this video. Again, I didn't really watch it, but obviously it's of a pet African rock python that is not aggressive. Do you think Colombian red-tailed boas are dangerous? Jerry the Snake Man makes him think they are far too dangerous for the general public to own as pets. Here's his video as him tormenting the boa and other snakes. First of all, no, I don't think most Colombian red-tailed boas are too dangerous. But has people died from a Colombian red-tailed boa? Yes, somebody has died from being strangled by one. The ones I show you again on my videos, I don't torment them to death to make them do this. It's in their nature. That's what they do. I simply show you that not all snakes are friendly, not all snakes are something that you want to keep as pets. I do work at a pet store. And when people look at the red-tailed boas and they're like, oh, that's a cute little snake, maybe I want that. And I explain to them, well, would you like to be, are you going to be able to take care of the snake when it reaches 8 to 10 feet long? And generally they'll say, no, maybe I need to go to another type of snakes. You see, I'm in the real world. I see what happens when people buy snakes that they can't take care of and they can't handle and they don't know what they're getting into. And this is what I try to promote. I'm not out there trying to promote people to take snakes as pets. I have nothing against that. I'm all for it if people want to do that. I think it's great. But that's not my goal. My goal is to educate people, to get over their fears, and to not want to kill the snakes on sight when they see them. It says, and then he says, if you go around stabbing your allies in the back and supporting snitches for the enemy, it won't be long before your battlefield enemy has rolled over you and raised a flag commemorating their victory. Again, I'm not stabbing my allies in the back. A reptile community, yes, I think they're great. But I'm not stabbing them in the back by showing the real side of snakes. All right? And snitching for the enemy, again, this gentleman is talking about the law enforcement going against the laws. He's talking about anybody who tries to enforce the laws as an enemy. This gentleman has major issue problems and he needs to deal with them. Well, because of him, we end up with a new attacker, okay? And this is what was posted here. Now, this new attacker is not totally incorrect. I mean, he talks about how the first attacker there is irresponsible. It says ignorant, irresponsible, dangerous, stupid. There are many descriptions for this sort of speech, none of them good. But then this seemingly personal, however well-researched attack on me, I'm not going to say my screen name because, again, I don't want to bring the forum into question. I have had strong negative reactions to me posting here before as well, but I regard it as just a difference in opinion, and everyone's entitled to their point of view. I got the feeling from the brief exchanges I've had with me on other threads that I enjoy exclusively of keeping snakes that I have license for. This is always a red flag, and it nags at the back of my head, but I let it go. I should have paid more attention. I feel at the same time disgusted by the other attacker and somewhat obliged to him for shedding some light on an issue that had been bothering me. It seems we have two very strong enemies of the hobby at odds here. One who disregards the laws, and the other who wants to keep the laws tight as they are so that he can brag about keeping these animals that are supposedly too dangerous for someone such as myself to keep. One brash and abrasive, and the other condescending and entitled. Because I'm legal, and I mentioned that many times, that I can keep snakes that you can't because you don't have licenses, makes me condescending and entitled. I've helped many people get their licenses, and yes, supposedly too dangerous for someone such as myself to keep. Large snakes are very dangerous and do kill people. Venomous snakes are very dangerous and do kill people. So yes, I am for the laws that restrict who can keep these, okay? He brings up the fact of me, being able to make, again, the money. And the money is not an issue here. If you've ever run a snake rescue, if you ever do educational shows, we run our so-called business, and I do not refer to myself as a business, but we run it at a nonprofit status. We're not official nonprofit, but we do not make money what we do. It costs us money in order to do what we do and to educate the public. And if you think I'm getting rich, then you need to come to my house and check out what I have, and you need to see my bills. You need to see my $600 electric bill I have right now for heating up the snake room in order that I can do these shows. He goes on to say, I've taken some time to watch a few of your videos, and most are really pretty good. Don't mind I edited the name of the other gentleman's comment about the quality of the videos. That was uncalled for as suggesting you should be eaten, but in a number of videos you intentionally harass your snakes to make them bite, and this bad attitude episode is particularly in bad taste. You have demonstrated that not only are red tails too dangerous for anyone other than trained professionals, but apparently so are hognose and rat snakes. And you have sufficiently proven that if you wave your hand in front of a cobra who is in full blue, it will smack its nose on the glass for your amusement. In another video, you continually harass a boa constrictor that is also in blue, so it will hiss and strike. If that is how you treat your hognose and cobras, I can only imagine what you have put the underfed rock python through. Do you condition all your snakes to be defensive? Aggressive? More people contact you for shows to see dangerous, aggressive snakes than would for docile, well-kept snakes. More shows, more money, huh? Well, again, at the end of this video, we're going to show you these snakes. We're going to let you make your own judgment on that. Again, brought up the fact of money, okay? If I was in this for money, I could make a lot more money doing this. I don't. I'm very inexpensive to do shows, and you want to know what? Yeah, aggressive snakes to be at a show, there are some people who ask for non-aggressive snakes, and that's what we bring. We accommodate people for the shows that they want. And I do harass, if you want to consider waving my hand in front of a snake and that snake then striking at me, harassing it, Well, yes, I do, and I do it so you can see what a strike is. I do it with the cobra, which is a snake that will flare up and strike at the glasses anytime you walk past his cage, okay? I don't want the snake to smack his face into the glass, and they quickly learn after a while, and they stop striking so far, and they won't do that. But if I have to wave my hand in front of him in order for this snake to flare up to show the public what it looks like, okay, then that's what I'll do. If you think I'm harassing them, you should come to my shows. I promote that these cobras, as they flare up and as they hiss at me and they try to strike at me once in a while, that they do everything in their power to avoid being aggressive toward me, to avoid being defensive toward me. See, these people have never seen my shows in person. They're judging, and they don't even know what they're talking about. It says, look, it is pretty clear you know your way around snakes, and you seem to generally care for your favorite, the Burmese, for example. Again, you don't know me. Burmese pythons are not my favorite snakes. And if it weren't for doing the shows, I wouldn't have a Burmese python. They take a lot of space. They eat a lot of food. They're very heavy. They travel around. They take a lot of space in the car. I would prefer not to use them at all. But I do because people want to see them, and I need to use them for the fact of what's going on in Florida and try to get people's opinions to change that these are not aggressive snakes out to eat the entire state of Florida. It says, but the strict and absurd reptile laws in New York are good for your business, and if they were suddenly relaxed, your profits would probably nosedive. So go on about how many people have been killed by rocks, or how hognoses are rear-fanged venomous. They may not be deadly, but they are not harmless. It's good for business, not good for hobbyists, even though as far away as Texas, but good for business. Again, what misinformation have I had here? Rock pythons have killed people. Hognose snakes are rear-fanged snakes, okay? And again, yes, if the laws were relaxed, it wouldn't affect my business in the least, okay? It has nothing to do with the fact that, again, I can take native snakes to a show, because if people want to see native snakes, they can go out in their yard and see them, all right? You want to watch these bigger snakes? Watch Animal Planet. You can see them on Animal Planet. People watch what I do because I educate them. People watch what I do because I show them the truth. I'm not showing them the fairy tale snakes that are all nice. I'm not showing them, telling them that these snakes all make good pets. I'm being truthful. These snakes don't all make good pets. All right? And if you think they do, well, I'll tell you what. You come over here, you take out the African rock python I have, without wearing gloves, and see if he gives you a nice little kiss just because you don't wave your hand in front of his face. Then another attacker has to jump in, and he says, I'm actually interested in the cobra being teased to attack the glass. Can you please enlighten me as to how this is informative? I've never seen any of your videos, so please don't think this is a first-hand account, but you seem to only talk about the good things you've done. Can you please explain why it's good to see a cobra strike at the glass? Because if you are looking to show the aggressiveness of cobras, I'm pretty sure most people know they are venomous and aggressive. So this is just redundant and mean to the snake as a whole. However, if this video doesn't exist or is being mistold, then please provide me with the link to the video so I can see for myself. Well, he can go on and he can watch any of the videos that are on my website and on YouTube as well. Again, I do not try to get the cobra to smack his face into the glass. I do everything in my power to avoid that. I cover tanks over with blankets. I put them up high so that they don't see movement. I do things that keep them from becoming aggressive and possibly hurting themselves in that way. No, not everybody has seen a cobra flare up. Not everybody has seen a cobra strike. So these are the things that I need to do to educate the public, all right? I'm not trying to be nasty or anything else to these snakes. I love these snakes. These are not my pets. These snakes are what I call working snakes. They have a purpose. These snakes are to go out and to educate the public. These snakes are to be the ambassadors for the snake world. Okay? And again, anybody who wants to own these type of snakes, go get a license. You can own them too. Then I get a private message from a gentleman who I did not take offense from, but I do want to answer and respond to what he had said. He said, I appreciate your attempt to educate the public and to do so free of charge. That's great. What my thoughts are, though, is that you're giving out misinformation and it isn't quite right. Well, I'm going to correct him, because when I read what he says, you're going to see that the information that I'm giving out is not incorrect misinformation. Here are the points I'm talking about, and he had 4. You said your rock python and other snakes you own are aggressive. They aren't. They are defensive. Snakes aren't aggressive. They react to a bite in a defense or hunting nature. The defense in a snake choosing fight or flight option. Your rock python in other videos has shown the flight option a number of times. Now, first of all, yes, after my rock python tries to take my head off and he gets tired of it and he's not successful, he will try to get away. And I do promote the fact that snakes do their best most of the time to try to get away from you. They don't want to get in a confrontation. But again, you would have to know me and have to actually have seen my shows in order to understand this. Here we have a difference of opinion on what the word aggressive and what the word defensive means. And I've heard this argument many times before on many forums. My version of defensive is a snake that is calm, that you frighten, that strikes out at you, that bites you through a feeding mode where he mistaken you for food, or you put your hand in front of his face and startled him and he has struck out and bit you. My version of aggressiveness is no matter what you do, the snake is trying to attack you, constantly striking at you. When you go to clean its enclosure, when you go to move it, when you go to do anything, the snake just keeps striking and striking and striking. He doesn't relax. He doesn't lay back. You see, I love rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes coil up, they rattle their tail, and they'll strike at you if you threaten them. But if you don't threaten them, they stay in that position and they're ready to get you, but they don't go after you. And that's a defensive snake. Some snake that just continually biting, striking, is aggressive, in my opinion, and that's how I use those terms. So me and this gentleman here, we actually agreed to disagree on the fact of what those terms mean. Number 2, it says, you openly say you feed your rock python less because you don't want to deal with, again, an aggressive 20-foot snake. Honestly, if you can't handle a snake that large, then give it up. There are many other smaller defensive snake species you can work with, such as white lips or water pythons. Okay, here what basically he's saying is, in his words, defensive. There are smaller defensive snakes that are generally what I would call aggressive, that I can work with. It's not that I can't work with a 20-foot large snake. It's that I choose to not work with a 20-foot large snake. I do feed it less, but when I say feeding it less, it doesn't mean that I starve the snake. It means that I maintenance feed the snake. And this is what maintenance feeding in my terms mean, is that I don't give the snake, as it grows, more and more and more rodents. I upsize the rodents appropriately to the size of the snake, and he is fed one of these sizes every 2 weeks. This way the snake does not grow to be huge, but he stays very healthy, and I've done this with many, many snakes. And this is also something that I will post another video clip on, about maintenance feeding snakes and how to keep large snakes at a smaller size. And a lot of people now are trying to breed so-called dwarf retics and whatnot, and they are getting the snakes from the islands instead of the mainland, because on the islands there's less food, which keeps the snake smaller, which is basically the same principle that I'm using now. Again, I can deal with 20-foot snakes. I've had large snakes before, but I choose not to keep a lot of large snakes because of the amount of food they eat, a lot of the room they take, and I personally am not a big fan of the larger snakes. Number 3, it says rock pythons very rarely get 20 feet. You know this. I'm sure of it. You should state appropriate information when giving it out. Rock pythons are the largest snakes in Africa, obtaining lengths of an average of 12 to 16 feet, but rather robust for their size. Probably second to the green anaconda. This is more so a pet peeve of mine. Well, I went on the internet and I researched it, because as I get older, my mind slips, and sometimes I give out misinformation, which I will admit to and I will correct as fast as I can. But when I went on to different rock python sites and I researched rock pythons, their length generally always said 20 feet, and even one of them said up to 23 feet. So I'm sorry that, yeah, normally they don't get that large. They get maybe 12 to 16 feet, like he says, but they can obtain lengths of 20 feet. So this is not misinformation, and it's your pet peeve, not mine. So I don't feel that there's anything wrong with me giving, you know, the total lengths or the obtainable lengths of certain snakes. Just because they don't always obtain that length doesn't mean that they can't. And last but not least, number 4, you talk about how professional you are, and yet you have pictures free-handling venomous snakes. Is this really the image you want to portray? That once you become experienced, you no longer need proper safety protocol? You may preach using hooks, tongs, gloves, but who's going to really listen when the experienced people don't do it? Well, first of all, as I explained to him, that picture that he's talking about, which you can see in the beginning of all my videos, it's me holding a rather large rattlesnake. And the snake is not being freely handled. It is restrained behind the head. And at this time, because it was an old picture, at that particular time, hex armor gloves were not available. This particular snake was known to dart out of his enclosure very quickly when he had the opportunity to. So proper protocol at that time was to pin the head down, restrain the snake behind the head, and move him to a temporary enclosure while you clean his. I always use my hex armor gloves when I handle any venomous snakes. And if you watch the videos we have of Tyler's venomous training, you will see that he is, I was told to always wear the hex armor gloves, as do I. He has the available to him hooks, tongs, gloves, shields, many cover-over boxes, many different things to use in order for safety, because I do promote safety first. Would I ever freely handle a venomous snake? Only if I absolutely positively had to. Now my question here is, and I love Steve Irwin, he was one of the people who also helped to inspire people to learn to love snakes and reptiles, and this way you would conserve them. But he was probably one of the worst people as far as safely handling snakes. He never used a snake stick or a tong or a hook or anything else. He used tree branches and bushes and would grab the snakes and they would strike at him. And nobody gave him a hard time about this. Why? Because he was a major public figure, and he was an entertainer. And because I'm not a major public figure, people like to jump on and point out every single little thing you may possibly do wrong. Well, you know what? Again, as I pointed out, I'm a professional. I'm looking through conservation, through education. I'm not looking to promote the reptile industry, the keeping of snakes. Again, I love people who keep snakes. I think it's great that they do, but not every snake makes a good pet. And if you don't like that, that's just tough. So now if you want to stay tuned, I'm going to show you those snakes that were called into question, and you can judge for yourself at how they look. Okay, just stay tuned, have a nice day, and we'll be right back. And as far as the comment about my snakes being underfed, I want to bring you downstairs to my freezer here. And as you can see, this is my chest freezer. It is stuffed. It is packed right up to the very top with rats, mice, chicken, guinea pigs, rabbits, you name it. I have all different sizes in here. So I have no need not to keep my snakes well fed. And most of the food that is in there right now was donated to me by people, so it didn't even cost me anything. I would say at least 80% of that was donations from people who decided that what I do is a valuable resource, and they wanted to contribute to it. So let me close up this freezer. As we come upstairs, I want to show you what my wife doesn't like though, but the overflow on the freezer door. of mice. There's probably 600 mice up here, all different sizes. We got pinkies, fuzzies, full-size mice, hoppers, you name it. 400 of those, again, were just donated from a friend. Again, I have no need not to keep my snakes well fed. Okay, this is the African rock python that they were talking about, and I have just picked him up, moved him very quickly into this temporary holding container so that I can clean his cage. As you can see, I am not doing anything whatsoever to threaten him. I have the lid on this temporary enclosure here, so he is in no danger whatsoever. I'm not waving my hand in front of him. I am doing nothing but just literally standing here, and you can see how he has tried many times already to strike at the sides. And what I'm going to do is, after I clean his enclosure, before I put him back in here, I'll set the camera up so that you can see the size of him, his body girth, how healthy he is. As you can see, he just continually tries to strike for no reason. Nobody is teasing him. Nobody is doing anything to cause him to want to defend himself. He is simply being very aggressive. Okay, here's the African rock python. As you can see, I'm doing absolutely nothing to tease him. I'm not waving my hand in front of him. I am putting on the Hex Armor gloves. I'm now going to open up this temporary holding enclosure so that I can show you his size, what he looks like. And he's right over here. You can see just very aggressive, attacking, no reason in the world. He will not let me anywhere near him without trying to strike at me, mouth open, definitely wants to bite me, grabbing onto the gloves with his teeth. What I'm going to do now, though, is restrain him just for a second so you can see his size. He is not underweight, he is not underfed, he's got a healthy body weight, he's obviously got a good attitude. And then we're going to put him right back into his enclosure so I don't harass him or upset him any more than he is. But as you can see, this is not a underfed snake. Look at his body. His skin is nice and tight. He has a head the proportion to his body size. And now I'm going to take you over to the Egyptian cobra, which was brought into question. And that's him right there. As you can see, he's all flared out. I have done absolutely nothing to him. I have not went into his enclosure. I have not tried to tease him or anything else. I have simply been walking around the room, and you can see he's all flared out and he's ready for a fight. Again, you can look at him. You can see his body size. You can see he's not underfed. He is very healthy. These snakes are just aggressive, and if you don't like that term, that's too bad, because that's what they are. He has no reason. He has a hide he can go into. But yes, if I were to go in there to deal with him, most of the time, he'll probably hood down and try to run away from me. But these snakes are aggressive snakes. I do not tease them and torment them. I do not underfeed them so they stay that way. It's just the way they are. Okay, here I've taken a Brazilian boa that somebody gave me because it was extremely aggressive, and I have moved him temporarily again into the holding enclosure. As you can see, he has his mouth open. I have done absolutely nothing to encourage this snake to be aggressive. He is hissing, open mouth. Again, check him out. He's not underfed. But this was a snake that was bought as a pet, and because it was aggressive, they didn't want him, so they give him to me. And this is what I show the public, is that not all boa constrictors, not all
are nice and friendly snakes. This is a very aggressive snake. I have not waved my hand in front of him. I have not done anything to promote this attitude he has. Now, if I were to put my hand in front of him to show people that he is ready to bite, I'm sure that he would strike at me. This is what I'm dealing with, and this is what the public does not want to, the reptile hobbyists do not want you to see, is that these snakes do not make good pets. Nowhere did I say a boa constrictor ever should be restricted and not be kept as a pet. I simply am pointing out the facts that we do have snakes that are aggressive, and if that terminology bothers you, well, that's just too bad. And lastly, here we're going to show you the baby hognose. As you can see him right here. I'm not really going to tease him. You see his head's already flared down and out. He's already looking to be a little aggressive here. Alright, look at him. He's all flared out. Look at him, flattened his head. Takes a little strike at me. I'm not doing really anything to tease him. Again, I think these guys are great. They can be aggressive. They're cute. Basically, I don't think they're a threat, but they are rear fang venomous. They are not harmless snakes. They could hurt you, as if you look at the lady's story that's on my website. I'm just trying to put out the truth about snakes, hoping that it will change you. If you're afraid of snakes, and I only show you the docile snakes to try to get you over your fears, and then you come across snakes that try to attack you, it's just going to embed that fear deeper and deeper into you. But I want to show you that not all snakes are nice. That yes, there are a lot of snakes that make good pets, or a lot of snakes that are very docile. If you come to my shows, I show that snakes, their first instinct is to try to remain camouflaged, unseen. They try to run if they are seen. They will do everything in their power normally to avoid a confrontation with people, but there are snakes that are just the opposite. So if that bothers you, that I show snakes in the real light and you think I'm hurting the reptile community, well, then it's not going to change, because that's what I do. But I think you're wrong. When I show snakes and the true sides of them, and people realize that there's good snakes and there's bad snakes, aggressive snakes, non-aggressive snakes, they still come into the place I work. They still purchase snakes as pets, and I will show them. Right now we have ball pythons. They're very aggressive. When people come in, I'll show them, look, is this what you want? They're very aggressive. Well, they'll say, I heard ball pythons never bite. Well, here's two that do. Then I'll take them over and show them a nice king snake that's docile and friendly, and normally they'll end up purchasing that. So I don't think I'm hurting the reptile community in any way. I think I'm promoting snakes in the true light they are, and to really get people over their fears so that they'll stop harming snakes, running them over with their cars when they see them on the road, chopping their heads off when they're doing gardening. This is the kind of stuff that we're trying to prevent.